Welcome to the Dog Tag Inc. Alumni Q&A. Hopefully this will be very informative for those of you in attendance. I'll go ahead and let another person in here from the waiting room. So just as a heads up, we will be having a virtual open house on September 8th. I will pop the registration link in the chat. I also wanted to remind you guys about the September 30th deadline for applications. And then I'll also be adding into the chat the link to subscribe to our newsletter in case you are not already subscribed. But with that, I think we can go ahead and get kicked off. Shamanda, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Shamanda. I'm from C14. Right now I have my name of my company is You Can Fit Out Too, which is a youth empowerment and entertainment company located in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's who I am.
Awesome. Thanks, Shamanda. I realized I should have given you a little bit more context there. Would you mind also telling us a little bit more about your military affiliation or anything else that you'd like to share?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
My husband is an officer in the Navy Reserve. I'm a military spouse.
Awesome. Thank you, Shamanda. Obi, go for it.
Okay. Afternoon or morning, evening, wherever you're at. My name is Obi Obioha or Nana Obioha. I go by Obi, or formerly known as Obi. I was called Obi in the Army, and I guess I'm bringing it back full circle now in civilian life, right? Army vet, Army combat vet, Army enlisted combat vet. So to all the others in the officer side, a little bit of envy, but maybe not. What else do I say? I'm sorry, I already lost my manuscript, right?
No, that's okay. Let's see, cohort?
Code 6, I believe. I'm not sure of my number, but one of the early knuckle draggers for sure. I found out about dog tag through the SBA. I was kind of doing my own groundwork, is trying to figure out what I wanted, not what I wanted to do, but how I was trying to get to where I wanted to go. Luckily enough for me, I was referred to dog tag through the SBA. I went there that exact day that they told me about it to Georgetown. I literally actually sat down with Megan Olive, who was the CEO. Luckily that afternoon, she told me about the program, told me to apply. I felt very fortunate and serendipitous that the chain of events that surrounded around that and kind of the recruitment process. And that's all I have in this moment.
Awesome. Thank you, Obi. So just as a heads up for anybody in the audience, we will have time at the end for any questions that you might have to ask our alumni. But for now, we'll go ahead and dive in. So Shamanda, why don't you kick us off with what did you do right after the program and what are you doing now?
To be honest, right after the program, I actually utilized all the skills that I actually learned in the program. One of the biggest things that I would say that I took away is strategy, because I'm a creative. And so being creative, you have all these great ideas. But I would say that the team, they are very helpful with helping you with your strategy, as well as allowing you to keep your creative outlet. So right after I finished the program, I started applying for grants and really started getting back into the community. And one thing after another led from one, I was accepted in different grant programs. And I must say that Dog Tag was one of the catalysts behind it, because they really taught you strategy. And I would say that that's one thing that give you skills that you can actually apply right after school.
Thanks, Shamanda. Obi, go ahead. I can reiterate the question too if needed.
Please, yeah, if you don't mind, Sarah, if you don't mind.
No, not at all, not at all. I know it's funny. It's like, you know, we sit here and we'll like take in what the other person's saying and we get excited and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, what am I supposed to say? Right. So what did you do right after the program and what are you doing now?
Great question. Right after the program, I was fortunate to graduate out of grad school. Also, Dog Tag helped liaise myself with a contracting company that got me an awesome position aligned with what I studied in grad school, which was technology. kind of helped me springboard that career out of service. What I'm doing now is I'm still in tech. I am on the federal side now. Previously, I was on the contracting side. I'm on the federal side, but I still have my wants and inspirations and aspirations towards entrepreneurialism and just trying to invoking that spirit again.
Awesome. Thanks, Obi. All right, let's see. Shamanda, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Capstone? So for those of you who don't know, Capstone is the final project of the fellowship. So this is where the fellows are required to create a business plan and pitch it to business leaders in the community. So Shamanda, what was the process like and how have you used it?
I would say the process when you first start off and you look at it, being that by skill, I'm a nurse. And so me transferring over to the business and corporate side, it was a switch in my brain. But what I can say is everyone that's on staff, they have the expertise to come beside you to make sure that you do great and you represent yourself to the community. So I would say that the business plan and the capstone was a stretch for me because I had to come outside my comfort zone. However, when it was time to speak in the community and actually go for corporate sponsors and different things like that, I'm gonna be honest, I could actually copy and paste my business plan and the pitch that was provided for Georgetown, which made it very easy when I had to come in front of people. But before I was a part of the program, I don't think that I would been able to do it without the confidence that I had when I left the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Shamanda. Obi, I know Capstone might have been a little bit different for you back in cohort 6, but if you wouldn't mind talking about your experience, that would be awesome.
What I was gonna, I'm pretty sure it's a little different, right? And my memory doesn't serve me too great about the experience. But what I will say is my capstone partner, who was a major in the Army as well and much older than me, is still a contact that I have till this day. We still will speak quarterly or monthly. And we've since connected, you know, since people have moved. I've left the country, he's moved out of DC, I've come back, you know. And this is back in 2017 was when I graduated. So what I will say about my capstone is my partner that I partnered up with, who was kind of like my battle buddy throughout the whole dog tag enrollment and through the whole dog tag process. We're still dear friends, we're still dear companions. He's a great reference, a referral source for me. I hope I reciprocate that for him. He's still a great mentor. But as far as what I do remember is the capstone definitely built on the previous steps that we took, right? So you start at level 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever you get to, right? But it all comes together and kind of completes the piece, 100%.
Awesome, thank you. Actually, Obi, building off of that, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how the fellowship helped you create community. Oh,
definitely. So in my old era, class of 06, right? No, definitely. I'm still in contact with, you know, people. So I think we were about a group of maybe 15, right? I don't know. I can't remember, right? But we were definitely divvied up into our little pods, right? Our tables. Like I told you, my mentor was in a different pod and table, maybe for Army Talk line, you know. And as far as our platoon goes, right, we were split up into different lines. And, you know, I'm still in contact with people from my line. I actually just had Rachel Harris, who's I think been premiered on some of Dog Tag's media content. She was up here in the DC area supporting her small business. And, you know, we got up for dinner. I talked to her, I believe this week, right? Or yesterday or something like that. So she was on my line, and then my mentor that I told you about that's in a different line, you know, like we'll still talk, not as consistently, right? But if you want it, you shall receive it, right? That is something that I will say with dog tag, right? Is whatever you want, they find some way, whether through you, through themselves, or through their network, to get it to you, honestly. And if there's something I do want to say is I wish I could do the program over again, right? Because I'm definitely not in the same place back then. Not to say that was a bad place, right? But I'm not in the same place that I was back then that I am now. And there's definitely things that I kind of want to reiterate or re-go over or relearn that I learned through the process, right? But I'm a very firm, I guarantee the statement when I say whatever it is that you want, you'll find it through this program, 100%. I'm confident in that.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Obi. I'll add to that as the alumni manager, something that I am working towards for the rest of 2022 and into 2023 is expanding more of our alumni programming. So if you attend the virtual open house on September 8th, you'll probably hear a little bit more about that and about our various alumni program elements. So like the mentorship program, advisorship, things like that. And I know Shamanda utilizes advisorship. I hear a lot of great things from our advisorship lead about Shamanda. So that's always great. Speaking of Shamanda, can you talk a little bit about what your biggest takeaway was from the program and how it helped you define your purpose?
I would say my biggest takeaway is that I love that they looked at the whole person, mental, physical, a holistic approach to learning, and always knowing that you're not alone. And the community that was extended to us was not only from the people that was on staff, but also the passion of the Georgetown leaders and partners that also came with the program. And I would say the biggest takeaway from the program is that I realized that the more that I knew who I was, the more I was able to align with my purpose and destiny. So the business part was attached, but I had to know who I was and where was my focus in order to move forward. So I really like the fact of like the journaling and coming together without thinking about our homework, but just coming together just as a human, as a person, to speak about what was on our hearts.
Awesome, thank you. Obi, same question. What was your biggest takeaway from the program and how did it help you define your purpose?
What was my biggest takeaway? I would say, so I'm like a credential chaser, right? 100%, right? Label, I was going to use an inappropriate word, but you can fill in the rest, right? Label, whatever. So for me, the certificate was the biggest thing, right? Like I said, I was going through my master's at the same time at a local Catholic university in Arlington, Virginia. So Georgetown definitely, the program and with the certificate added to that credential chasing that I was doing, right? Of that certificate and that program and the prestige around it and the name, 100%, right? Another takeaway for me, and to build on what Sharonda was saying, something I wish I had more clarity on back then, and I even still now, is kind of like what direction I want to go in, right? Like I said, Dog Tag helped me build my network and, helped me segue into a role and roles that I felt like I wanted, but at the same time, a part of me still torn into that entrepreneurial side, right? So it's like, hey, I wanted to go back into the workforce and be a worker bee, and Dog Tag helped me do that. But then also there's a part of me that wants to work for myself and kind of build on that avenue of life, right? So as like Sharonda said, I think, a big thing of kind of knowing yourself and doing that self-work and self-study inside and really figure out what you really want can be extremely beneficial to you guys or to whoever.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Shamanda, we talk a lot about pivoting in the fellowship. This is like my favorite word now. I use it way too much, pivot. How has your experience as part of the fellowship program prepared you for unexpected challenges?
I guess my biggest takeaway after being in the program is just seeing everything as an opportunity. And so when something doesn't go my way, I don't see it as a failure. I see it as a way to learn something new and to grow within it. So I would say within the program, it showed me that when something happens, to persevere, but also look at yourself and see if this is an opportunity for you to look at something different and change your strategy. So just seeing what you're supposed to learn from that particular point and not make it seem like you're failing, but just failing forward to know this is a learning opportunity to persevere, but make sure that your strategy is focused and know where you're going.
Awesome, thank you. Obi, same question. What would you say your experience has been with unexpected challenges after the fellowship?
Same thing Sharonda said, right? Not to keep on echoing Sharonda, but I'm just going to build off, your great lead is, picking up the pieces as they fall. And I've had some barriers and some blockers, some super personal, some self-inflicted, right? But keeping that mindset of, the tuck and roll and, mission first. And that mission first is your mission of self-care, self-worth, self-improvement, and just staying true to that, giving yourself grace and patience to have those bad days, weeks, months, or maybe a year, right? But staying true to yourself, to being able to circle back and just staying commitment to your needs and your wants. And hopefully those needs or wants are aligned, to yourself.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I think I just have one more question for you guys, and then we can open it up for questions from the audience. I also wanted to put out there, I realized Shamanda and Obi, if you want to put your LinkedIn or website or anything like that in the chat so people can get in touch with you, you're absolutely welcome to.
Awesome.
But while you guys are doing that, the last question I have, Shamanda, what do you wish you would have known beforehand, and what advice would you give to future fellows?
I would say that the best part is I didn't know anything, which made me more teachable. I think sometimes when you know so much, you're not willing to be in. I'm sorry. I don't think you're willing to be more flexible. Especially as an adult learner, sometimes you feel like you know everything, but being okay to die to yourself and know that you don't know everything, and when becoming teachable. And that's the biggest thing, is that I was always stubborn with my vision, but flexible with my plan. So that's one of the biggest takeaways that I could say, is that I'm so glad that I didn't know, because if I would have had my mind stuck on certain things, I wouldn't have been as teachable when you guys were giving such, just trust the process. And, it just sounded like you were just like, okay, yes, right. But by the end, what they were saying was just trust and believe and move forward. And with that and not knowing, it actually allowed you to grow without anxiety of knowing what was coming next, but just trusting that they have walked with so many people on this path and see the beauty by the time you get to capstone. What I wish I would have known is that, I'm gonna be honest, they actually care a lot about you as a person. And so therefore it's very rewarding to know that they didn't just care about you being a great business or entrepreneur, that they cared about you as a person. And so that was one of the biggest takeaways, that I'm so great that I was a part of such a great community, not just a platform, but people who are great in their expertise, but also have big hearts.
Thank you, Shamanda. I just see that Anne Barlieb, one of our other alumni, just popped on. So I'm going to go ahead and add her as a pin here. And then maybe we can get some perspective from her as well. So Obi, I'll ask you first, and then Anne, it'll give you some time to catch up. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, Obi, same question. What do you wish you would have known beforehand, and what advice would you give to future fellows?
What I wish I'd known beforehand is, I don't know, the discipline of doing one thing at one time, right? That's something I still struggle with now. That's, that multitasking meme or hype around it is BS, right? I think we need to focus on one thing, one mission at one time. Personally, for me, when I was going through Dog Tag, not only was I working, but finishing grad school and also doing Dog Tag's program at the same time, which I feel in the long run, I was able to accomplish everything, right? But did myself a disservice because I didn't absorb everything that Dog Tag had to offer. I absorbed, I mean, I got more than enough, right? But I feel like if I had fully immersed myself in the program, I would have been able to take away extremely more than I did, right? And as we started this meeting, I noted wanting to repeat the program, right? Because I I truly stand by it and believe in its process, right? The second half of the question was, I think, did I already answer it? I think I did. Second half of the.
So, what advice would you give to future fellows?
Yes, for future advice. I mean, truly trust in the process, right? They might, I mean, at least in my era, right, there were some things that were kind of not unorthodox, very brand new, biggest part I would say was the mindfulness, right? Like, sitting in silence before we started the day was nothing that we did in the Army, right? So not even because of that, right? But there was a lot of different things that were out of the norm for me or out of practice or just kind of new. Even like Sharonda said, everything comes in together, right? It's not just about it's not about professional accomplishments with the dog tag team. It's about all your holistic accomplishments, right? The spiritual, the physical, the mental, the professional, right? They build on these blocks incrementally, sectionally, right? And they try to re-put you together. And yeah, just dive in deep, pay 100% attention, please. Like I regret I regret just being so distracted in that moment. But such is life.
Thank you, Obi. I realized while you were talking that we're both wrong, that you were cohort 5.
Okay, right, okay. Yeah, I don't remember that. Vince always corrects me too, right? He's like, "Oh, you're 5, you're 5."
It's funny that he remembers. That's so
right.
Funny. I love that. I'm gonna put if you're okay with it, I'm gonna go ahead and put the link to your Voices of Dog Tag in the chat too, because I think it provides some really great insight into what it's like to be in the Dog Tag Fellowship program.
100%, yeah, please.
Awesome. I will go ahead and do that now. Anne, can you give us some information about your background? Can you take a minute to introduce yourself, your name, your cohort, your military affiliation, and anything else you'd like to share? And then I'll ask you a couple questions.
Sure. Yeah. First, I really apologize for being late. We're having connectivity issues, and so I drove out to get on a network. Anyway, I am Anne. I was cohort 6, and I medically retired from the Army after 14 years of service, helicopter pilot and psychological operations. I retired out of Walter Reed after a 3-year medical board process at Walter Reed. And I was in my last year of service, kind of on short final when I did the dog tag. I actually finished the dog tag bakery program. I finished in November, and then I retired in July. And it's an incredible experience that I probably one of the most, just really such a great, they operationalize what the services, do through, we call in the Army SFL TAP, or transition services. Dog Tag Bakery really makes it tangible. And I feel very fortunate. And it wasn't as competitive back then, it's more competitive now. But I feel super, super grateful to have been able to be a part of it, and still a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. And thank you so much for being here. I'm so sorry about the connectivity issues. It's so kind of you to drive out and figure out a way to make it work. That's some dedication. All right, so let's see. I'll ask you a couple questions that I asked Jamanda and Obi, just so everybody can get like a full scope of the different perspectives for alumni. So let's see. I guess, what was your biggest takeaway from the program, and how did it help you define your purpose?
I think really the most influential part of being in the program was learning learning Father Curry's story, and the fact that what he was able to create out of just an idea and a passion to really leverage what a lot of people can see. He was born without an arm, right? And he really chose to take that and leverage it as a point of connection with people. And so when I learned his story and the fact that, you know, he just had this idea of wanting to create a program to how he thought service members had a lot to offer in terms of life experience and continued service in the world. And really, he just believed in that, and one thing led to another, and now there's a brick and mortar bakery in Georgetown. And so I think being a part of that legacy and just knowing that so much is possible just from a vision and a belief. And really, there's no such thing as an obstacle or what some people might call a handicap. It can actually be, you know, a resource or a tool or an instrument to create really and do really important work. So, and when I started at Dog Tag Bakery, my business plan was that I wanted to raise bees and harvest honey and do biscuit baking, like a little easy kitchen biscuit baking thing, and do like just real simple farmers markets and stuff. And I get into the program, and really I hadn't come to terms with my physical limitations. I had seen it on paper, but I hadn't really come to terms with what my limitations were. I was still kind of shell shocked in the hospital and going through the process and everything. And then I get to the Dog Tag Bakery. We're doing our rotations, and I go into the kitchen, and they tried to make all these accommodations for me and put industrial fans in the kitchen because with my nerve damage, I can't regulate my body temperature. I get overheated. I can't cool down. It's, you know, and so in the kitchen, it got too hot. I'd be in and out of the walk-in freezer. And then finally, after about 2 weeks, Megan and the program manager at that time, Kyle, sat me down in the bakery, and I could tell you which booth it was because it was so, it was like an intervention, but like the most loving intervention possible. They kind of just gently said, Anne, we've tried to do all of these things to make it amenable for you to be in the kitchen, but you know, we've done this, and this, and you're just not able to do it physically. And hearing that was devastating, but right away, they said almost in the same breath, but we've noticed through this program, all these other things that you can do, and you do very well. And they really, which were like writing and listening, speaking, mentoring. And they really gave me permission to not have this drive to like do what I thought was expected or necessary to like prove my, I don't know. And not that I didn't want to do, I wanted to do the beekeeping, but physical, like just they just create wonderful intersections when we're willing to show up, to show what our strengths are and how to really go in that direction. So the good news is that it was a great opportunity and wonderful thing. And the good news is that it was really difficult. It was one of the most difficult things, was to kind of come to terms with what my limitations are and what I can do and want to do in the world. Having that permission.
Thank you, Anne. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what you did after the program and what you're doing now. And then that'll kind of lead us into, you know, if there's any advice that you have for fellows as they're applying or as they're going through the program.
Sure. So Dog Tag Bakery, there's kind of like a few pillars of interest, right? There's going back to education, like many people have gone back to get degrees after they're finished, go on to employment. And there's so many channels and connections that Dog Tag Bakery has in all kinds of industries and fields. If you want to go back for employment and the application process and walking through that, there's entrepreneurship, most obviously. What kind of business do you want to get off the ground and start to realize? And then there's what I call like emotional health and wellness, and that's really what I've chosen to focus on is emotional health and wellness. So, and that again is something that the faculty at Georgetown helped me realize. So I'm a single, fully medically retired service member. I don't have any children. I don't, so they helped me kind of realize that I didn't have to go out and, work or like, I shouldn't say that, but like make myself uncomfortable physically, like, but I had that drive. Like I've got, even for the program, I wanted to do something. Like, I don't want to be like a mark on Dog Tag's roster that's like, what is Ann gone and done? But so it was all in my head. I had this paranoia over that, but this is where Dog Tag, I really learned, like, they mean what they say when they want what's best they want us to discover what is best and true for us. And so what I am doing, so they help me kind of analyze my income profile, my physical limitations. So like, I had brain surgery, I've got nerve damage. I go to Walter Reed and the VA a few times a week for different appointments. It just wasn't practical, at least not right now, to either try to start an ambitious business or be in work. But so what I do is I volunteer. I volunteer at Walter Reed a few times a week for service members going through the medical board process, because I have through my own experience, I've developed some mastery in that, in terms of, the medical board process and appeals and stuff. I write prolifically. I attend several writing groups a week and have amassed volumes of writing that I'm not sure that I'm going to publish or not. And that too, again, is something through finding your voice and the writing exercises at Dog Tag Bakery, that I can write for pleasure. I mean, we can do anything for pleasure. It's a novel concept, right? But like, we don't have to write in order to do a book. We don't have to write in order to produce or achieve or do anything. I write mainly for pleasure, and maybe someday I might publish something. And if so, Dog Tag Bakery also partners with a lot of arts communities in the locally. And so if and when we go back to open mics regularly, they use a stage there in the bakery, and I often do and participate in community building open mic stuff. And I do a fair amount of mentoring, by just individual referrals through anybody going through any type of, issues. That's one thing, in the service, we've had a lot of life experience. And I think we also have the ability to be neutral in a lot of things. And so I spend a lot of time doing that. And I would say that Dog Tag Bakery gave me the permission to do those things. And then also, more importantly, to feel good about them, and not to feel like when I show up to events like this and colleagues are off out doing like impressive, wonderful things, which are really great. And I mean, my God, some of the stories coming out of this program, like, knock your socks off, honest to God. But it's made me be able to celebrate that and feel equally valued and important in what I'm doing. And that Dog Tag doesn't have any expectation beyond that. If and when I choose to do something like go back to school or publish something, I trust, I know they're there to celebrate. I've seen them do it for other people, but there's no pressure, if that makes sense. Which is why I love, like, once you graduate the Dog Tag Bakery program, man, you're part of I call it's kind of like the mob, but it's like the friendly cookie baking mob. It's not like the street corner shady. It's kind of like, hey, what's your good news? Here's a cookie. Yeah, let's come celebrate something. And hey, if stuff is bad, we're going to be there for that too, because it's happened. It's all part of the process. Like, Obi said, you just got to trust the process, like the real deal. And we're all in it together. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anne. I think you highlighted a really important point too about the definition of success. As the alumni manager, I get a lot of people, like colleagues at other organizations asking me, well, how do you measure success? And I mean, my kind of cheat answer is I don't. It's up to anybody that goes through our program to determine what success means for them. If success means just hanging out and focusing on health and wellness, that is absolutely a form of success. So just wanted to highlight that. But I think with 15 minutes left, I think it would be a great time for us to open it up for guest questions. So if anybody has a question, you can feel free to blurt it out. If you feel uncomfortable blurting it out, you can put it in the chat. You could raise your hand using the raise hand function, but I'll mute myself so I can allow some space for you guys to have at it.
I had a question. My name is Jennifer, and I wanted to know how many people are going to be selected this particular upcoming season. I've been told several different things, and I just wanted to hear straight from you guys.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I can answer that. We accept up to 16, we accept 16 fellows for our DC cohort. And then currently we accept 10 fellows for our Chicago cohort. However, that number might go up to 12. I'm not sure if we're going to be looking for more than 12 for Chicago, but since this is going to be our third cohort, we're still feeling it out a little bit.
Okay, and then another question. Anne was sharing how, how her disabilities kind of, did come between, certain things during her process. I was really nervous because I'm actually dealing with a lot of health concerns, and I had to medically retire as well. So I would be trying to go for the Chicago location, but I did want to just be transparent before I even applied that, I do have some stuff going on. Is that going to be a problem?
No, it absolutely should not be a problem. And I'll hold space for you to chime in if there's anything you'd like to add, but I will say that it shouldn't be an issue. We try to be as accommodating as possible. I appreciate your transparency because, if you're letting us know before we've even interviewed you, we know that we're in this together and it's going to be something that we can work towards to find a solution. And
thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course. And is there anything you'd want to add?
Just, that the way they've designed the program, I mean, remember that it's set up for military service members, caregivers, family members. And it's one of the most accommodating programs. I mean, you remember now, I was in the Warrior Transition Brigade at Walter Reed. They've set up the coursework and the rotation. So it's Monday through Thursday. It's a good full day, but then Friday is left for administrative / medical things. And so I found, and I had a lot of reservations about it. And just like you, Jennifer, I kind of said, I mean, back then, I mean, I had to make arrangements to take the metro or to drive in, and I, with my chronic fatigue and nerve damage and, I was like, I don't know about this. And with the weather changing, and they, thankfully I didn't have too many problems, medically that way. But I mean, it wouldn't be unusual for me to take a nap, like at lunch, and rest. And, but I really do think that the program's focus is on helping us come to terms with whatever it is that we've got going on. And doesn't only have to be medical. I mean, people going through this program, you know, there's people that identify relational, you know, things that they need to get sorted out. I mean, if they really want to follow a dream, and like, there's all those kinds of, everybody has something in the cohort. There is not a person that does not have something that's going to get worked through and worked over. And that to me, I mean, and again, like I said, Father Curry kind of being the quintessential role model in terms of like, hey, this is what I had going on. I didn't let it limit me. I surrounded myself with caring people who know life is not perfect and we've got to make the best out of what we've got. And they're willing to meet us there as long as we're willing to meet ourselves there. And that's one thing I'll say up front about Dog Tag is that that's no joke. Like they do, if there's one thing they demand, it's that you meet yourself where you're at. And that can be challenging and confronting for people. But I find that there's no more loving and safe environment to let that happen than Dog Tag. And not to mention, not a program out there that's going to pay you to do that hard work. You know what I mean? Like it's the real deal. Like it's the real deal.
Thank you so much, Anne. Also, Shamonda, I was wondering if really quickly you wouldn't mind touching on what it was like for you with it being virtual, because Anne and Obi, you were both fully in person, but Shamonda, you were in the fully virtual setting. So I don't know if there's anything you'd want to add about, you know, accommodations or you know, accessibility in the virtual cohort.
I would say initially I had reservations thinking like, how can you build community in a virtual space? But I would say that I was virtual, but I am just so much connected to my fellows as anybody else that I would have been in graduate school with, because you guys gave us time for breakout rooms. We worked on projects together. We still talk to each other. So the virtual room was not a limitation for us. It was just the point of everybody being okay with being authentic. So by everybody becoming authentic, it brought us close no matter what the space was. So I didn't see it as a barrier. It allowed people to speak. Like somebody probably was more of an introvert, they want to speak. And it was like a way that you're not on the stage per se, but you're in a box, but it allowed people to be free in their own authentic personality. So I really enjoyed being in a virtual space.
Awesome. Thank you, Shamonda. Obi, chime in.
It's going to sound like a little bit of tough love. And Laurel, this is not directed towards you. Miss Haxton, it's not directed towards you, but the question, right? When it comes to overall time commitment, there should really be an excuse, right? I feel like if I was able to go to graduate school full time and work part time and do the program right, Dog Tag is definitely accommodating for you to execute your mission, right? I mean, if, like I said, if I was able to juggle all those three moving pieces at one time, I feel like anyone that wants to get after it Dog Tag will provide you the avenue for you to get it right. So don't fear when it comes to time management. Don't fear when it comes to the coursework or the homework, right? Some things you're gonna like, some things are gonna be easier for you, some things you're gonna try and dip out on. It's human, it's natural. But overall, if you stick with it and go through it, trust me, you will come out the other end better, more fulfilled, overall, the shit like that.
Yeah, and I want to chime in regards to that, because we're talking about how nice Sarah and all them are, but at the same time, you are in business school with professors. And so you have one side with them nurturing you through it, but you do have another side where you have professors. And so I can say I was a mom with kids and homework, but at the same time, there is some intensiveness in the work. However, when it becomes so intense and you let Sarah them know, they do say, hey, take a day off from that, you know, or make sure you have yourself together. So it is a medium between you knowing that you're coming in to be focused and disciplined in your work, but also realize that it's a holistic approach for you to let them know when there's too much and you need to pull back. And so there's a medium where they will reach out to you and you're ready to reach out to them to let them know where their help is needed.
Thank you, Shamonda and Obi. And Laurel, just to like piggyback off of that a little bit. So you asked, could you please describe how you best utilize time management within the fellowship? So I'll open it up for alumni to chime in on that. But in terms of coursework and homework in the evenings and weekends and the overall time commitment, just as a reminder to everyone, our fellowship program is from Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. for 5 months. So there is that time commitment. There is 1 week off that'll be either spring break or fall break, depending on which cycle you're in. And then there is homework and coursework in the evenings and weekends. I would say that it's not an unmanageable amount by any means, because we do understand that you have a life outside of dog tag, and we want to work with you on that. But there are deadlines, I mean, because there is work associated with it that you'll have to do. But we also try and foster time so that you have time to get that work done during fellowship hours, outside of fellowship hours, support, tutoring, things like that. And then really quickly, before I turn it back over to alumni to kind of chime in on that as well, in terms of virtual, hybrid, or in-person, that is something that we are still trying to determine. Right now, we are operating a hybrid model. Cohorts, cohorts 11 through 15 and Chicago cohort 1 were all fully virtual due to the pandemic, but now we are operating hybrid. So we will have 1 week in September with our current 2 cohorts that will be fully in person at our bakery. There may be a second week there for graduation. That's still getting worked out. But so for cohorts, for the winter 2023 cycle that you all are applying for, that is something that we're still in the works on. However, I would encourage you to go ahead and apply, and we'll keep you informed as we move through the interview process. And if you subscribe to the newsletter, there will be updates there too. So alumni, back to you if you have anything you'd want to add about time commitment or time management. Nope.
I mean, I can add something, right? I'm awful at time management, right? Even right now, as I'm in with you guys, I'm trying to handle something else as well, right? But like I said, not to sound cliche, right, or echo the same information, trust the process. The whole program, especially in my era, was very understanding, very adaptive to whatever your needs are. And like I said, there's going to be things you like, there's going to be things you don't like, but if you're able just to sit down and get through it, it's going to be gratifying at the end of the day. It's well worth it.
Awesome. Thank you, Obi. We have about 4 minutes left. So any other questions from the guests here? Again, you can feel free to put them in the chat, shout them out, raise your hand.
I just wanted to say thank you. This is Jennifer again. Thank you all for, providing this information in this, this space for us to talk about things. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much more than I had heard previously. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that you found it helpful.
I know I came in a little bit late, and so I missed I might have missed some of this, but something I always encourage, I always encourage people to apply to Dog Tag Bakery, just because my own personal experience was so incredible. But something I always caution folks when they go for the application process is to not get discouraged. Like, I've had several friends who I've encouraged to apply, and they don't get picked up on the first round, and they get put on a wait list or something happens. And something about that is that Dog Tag Bakery goes through great lengths to craft the cohort. Like, they really want to balance, like, a caregiver versus service member versus family member, military experience, rank, interests, desired outcomes, and all of that. And so I guess I'm just trying to say is that I've had several friends who thought they weren't going to get picked up, and then things change, timelines shift, and then all of a sudden they get a call and they do get selected. But just not to take the application process personally. like so much of it, like I was supposed to be in cohort 4 when I applied, and then because I was on a certain glide path for retirement in the medical board, and then everything went south, and they didn't make me reapply, but they just held my slot. So that means that somebody in cohort 4 got my slot. So just, it can be a little bit intimidating applying for a program like this and limited slots and everything, but I would just say, go for it, and don't be discouraged, in the process itself. Just go for it and enjoy it.
Thank you, Anne. I think that's an important call out. And thank you to all of the alumni for being here. I really appreciate you guys so much. And yes, Obi, welcome to the mob. I love that. That's going to be a new thing for me. But yeah, if you guys think of questions later, please feel free to email them to us at fellowship@dogtaginc.org. Again, we have our virtual open house on September 8th. The red in the chat right now. And then if you would like to subscribe to our newsletter, here is the link for that. As a reminder, the application deadline is September 30th. But with that, I will go ahead and end the meeting. And thank you again, everyone, for being here. All right. Bye.
Bye.